Welcome to another episode of the Walk the Line podcast. I'll be your host, Greg Sowers, and today we'll be joined again by Jimmy Warrick. We had Jimmy on a few weeks ago where he talked about Warrick Hockey Advantage. And rather than this episode be an interview, me and Jimmy have decided to tag team a couple of topics. But Jimmy, how's it going?
Living it up. I'm happy to be back. Glad I got the invite to come back here.
Yeah, you passed the first interview test, and your episode did pretty well. So, hoping you can share some more insight on the things we'll be talking about today.
I love it. Let's get into it.
All right. So for today's episode, it's going to be a two-parter because a lot of our teams here locally just finished up with tryouts. We did have an episode a few weeks ago talking about tryouts and what you can do to ramp up and be noticed and communicate with that coach. But for this episode, we'll talk about tryouts now that you've either made the team or didn't make the team. And we'll kind of spin that off into one specific topic of hockey IQ. And that's a thing, an aspect of hockey that, a lot of coaches look for at tryouts. So to kick things off here. So like I said, tryouts just happened here in Nashville for all the youth organizations. And, for those kids who did make it, congratulations. And that'll be the first topic we dive into. So, Jimmy, I guess first question to you. I mean, what advice do you have for a kid who just tried out for his AA or AAA team and or even A team and made that team?
I think you soak it up, right? Obviously, I'm sure, and you're putting in a lot of work, you're putting in a lot of effort, there's a lot of stress going into it, and once you make that team, you obviously get that sigh of relief, and you get to enjoy it and kind of soak it in. I would say for a day or two, and then right after you're done celebrating, it's got to be right back to work. Obviously, you made the team, and that's only part one. So, now you got to establish, am I going to be a big time player on this team? Do I want, what do I want to get out of it from this team rather than just, you never want to be satisfied, especially in the game of hockey. You never be satisfied. You always want to improve your game. You always want to get more ice time. You always want to produce more points. So, it's immediately, after, those couple of days of, enjoying and taking that stress out, you have to go right back to work.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing too, is like, you put so much stress on yourself, whether you're, a squirt and you're 10 years old or you're a midget and you're U18. It's like you're planning, you're mentally stressed to get on this team. And now the opportunity finally comes and you did your job and you got the call. But I mean, that's really just the beginning. And I'm sure you've had it too, where I have a kid at tryouts and he looks, great. He makes a team. And then, October comes around or September, whenever your season starts, and it's almost like, did this kid even touch the ice since tryouts? And you do not want to be that kid.
Yeah. And I mean, it's different here in Illinois. We do our tryouts. The AAA teams do their tryouts around the same time as you guys, but the AA teams, we don't try out until September. But even there, it's the same thing. Like, what you saw out of someone maybe the year prior, but then they come back and you're like, what happened over the summer? Did they train? And I think it's hard. I mean, I think a lot of people don't understand too. Like it's hard on coaches. Like it's not, we're not trying to, we want the best for each kid. And, I think taking that with a grain of salt and putting kids in the right spot and making sure that they're going to be able to succeed whatever team they get put on.
Yeah. And I still don't understand why here in Nashville, we try out so early. I mean, we have 3-4 months before the season even starts now. And like, we already have our teams picked and, kids move to town over summer and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then I know obviously Chicago and Illinois in general, there's so many programs out there, but we have our 3 or 4 and they all schedule them on the same day. Like you have to pick one, or we have kids driving back between, one rink to another rink to try out for multiple teams. It is madness for 3 or 4 days in the hockey community, but yeah, just don't understand it. But I mean, obviously to all the kids out there who made their team, congratulations here in Nashville, and sounds like Illinois, you got a few months to keep training for it. But I think we can the easy part is talking to the kids who made it. It's an easy phone call to make. They're happy, parents are happy. But so what happens, I guess, when your kid doesn't make the team? And obviously, my case, I had Pee Wees for 2 years in a row, and then I moved up to Bantam. So I had my full Pee Wee team from last year try out for our Bantam AA team, and that's a tough experience as a coach, because you have kids you've had for the past 2 years, and as much as you want to take all of them, it's just there's not enough roster spots. But same question I asked you about making the team. I guess what advice do you have to kids who unfortunately don't make the team they were trying out for?
No, I mean, I think the first thing is, you never want to get too down, right? I mean, obviously it's going to be a disappointment, but I'm a big believer in having a chip on your shoulder, and not a grudge or not playing, pouting or anything, but you take it and just say, okay, this happened. It sucks, but how am I going to overcome it? And me being on the second team or the third team or whatever team you end up making, like, I'm going to be the best player on this team. I'm going to prove to the coaches that they made a mistake. And that's something that I've seen all the time. Like, in clubs that I've worked in or whatever, like, we make a decision, and halfway through the year, you see the development of one kid that maybe didn't make it. And, coaches are excited for that kid. That's awesome. Like, that's what we want. We want you to develop and grow some confidence. So I think the first thing is, like I said, not getting too down. But then second, it's not an unfair question to ask to reach out to the coach, not in a complaining matter, obviously. I mean, you never want to complain. You never want to, that you'll never get a straightforward answer. But if you honestly go to a coach and just say, hey, what did I do? Like, where do I need to work on? What was missing in my game for me to not be a part of this team? And, they give you an honest feedback. That's what you take into the year.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. It's like, obviously it sucks, and you're probably a little pissed for not making the team. But as a coach, you should always be available to tell a parent or a kid why. And I've had a couple of those calls this week, and they're obviously tough conversations to have. But as a parent, you have to know if you're going to have that conversation. You might hear something that you don't necessarily agree with or like, but the coach has taken time to express his opinion of whatever the situation may be. It's just, if you're a parent and you want to know why, like, feel free to reach out and ask. And if the coach has any marbles, he should be willing to to answer that call and set that time. But also just know that it may not be something you want to hear. So I mean, it's tough. Tryout season, or tryout part of the year, is always tough. But obviously, just as a player, just staying positive, like you said, have that chip on your shoulder. And I had a conversation earlier this week with a player, and it's just like, use that to your motivation. If you're at home and you're supposed to be shooting pucks, well, maybe think, well, why didn't I make the team? And maybe that's the motivation you need to go shoot pucks for 5 minutes or whatnot. So
100%. And
yeah.
I mean, I think you nailed it too, with the coach needing to be able to step up. I mean, I can't speak for every coach in this game, and obviously there's people in every profession that people don't really like or disagree with, or aren't doing it for the right reasons. I think that the majority of coaches in our game, or at least I like to think so, are doing it for the right reasons. And every coach is going to have to, we go into tryouts knowing we're going to have to answer to questions, not complaints, but to questions of, why am I taking this player? Why didn't I take this one? Why did I look at this one? What was the difference? Was it a good fit? But I think, as long as you present it in a question of, being positive and saying, where did I see myself getting, like, where am I missing the team? All that good stuff. I mean, I think that's the way you go about it. And then that's what you hone in on in the summer, like we talked about with your skills coaches or anything in that nature, and just really focus on that.
Yeah, and I think too, it's important to remind your player that if they're a first year Bantam and they didn't make the Bantam AA team, well, they still got another shot at Bantam. It's just like, don't give up and be like, okay, I want to quit hockey because I didn't make the AA team my first year. It's like, hockey's a long game. You can play it for your whole life if you want to, and it's just because you don't make the top team this year doesn't mean you won't improve and grow and make the team the following year. And I think a part of that, and Jimmy, I can't remember which age group you have, but I mean the kids now, especially at the Bantam level, you got some kids who are 6'2", and some kids are still like 5'1". Like the
100%.
it's you got to grow into your body too.
Well, I love that you brought that up. I think it's a great point because, I've seen kids not make a AAA team until their second year of U18s. I mean, it is, it's truly, and that, there was a kid that when I was coaching at CYA, never played AAA, just played high school and AA. And he made it his last year of eligibility playing U18 and, ended up playing Division III college. Like nobody would have ever thought that. Like, it's just, there's no one path in hockey. There's no rule of you have to be playing AAA when you're 12 years old. Otherwise, you're never going to have a chance to play college. I think it's like you said, finding the right fit, finding the right situation. For someone that's a smaller Bantam, maybe it is good to be on the second team and get to grow and develop into a goal scorer. There's a big, I mean, I know this is way down the line, but what I tell all of my junior age players is, it's great to play in the North American League or, the NCDC, but for you to be on the fourth line isn't doing you any good. It's not getting you any better. And especially for kids, like at such a young age, why do you want to sit on the bench just to say that you're on the top team? Like you should be wanting to be out there all the time in key situations, on the penalty kill, on the power play, scoring goals. Like that's how you want to present yourself to teams, that you're a goal scorer, not, you don't want coaches to look and be like, yeah, he's a good third line, fourth line grinder.
Right. And I mean, to talk about it in an NHL perspective, it's like, for our Nashville listeners, like Tolvainen, when he was here in Nashville, he wasn't with the Preds, day one. He goes to the AHL and finds his game, plays a lot, gets a lot of minutes in those big situations. And then when, they have the luxury of calling guys up during the season, but, it's a confidence builder. And maybe in the long run, playing on that lower team can be beneficial to you. Whereas, like you said, if you're used to being a skill guy, and you get put on a team where maybe your skill kind of washes out, you're not getting those big minutes and experience. So you can use that to your advantage for sure.
Yeah. And I work with squirts, so the 10U age and then also high school too. But I mean, the squirts, that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for. I don't want to take someone on the team that may not play a lot. And it's not because they're a bad kid. It has nothing to do with that. It's all because I would rather, if they're a first year, I would rather them get a ton of ice time. And then by the time that they're a second year, they're coming to the team with so much confidence because they just scored a ton of goals.
Right. So I think obviously there's things, if they didn't happen to make the top team, we usually give feedback of what they can work on. And a lot of it falls on skating, stick handling, like the basic hockey things that a coach can say, like, well, you can work on this in the summer, your shot speed, all that. But one thing that we discussed, and our listeners actually thought it would be a good episode idea, is talking about those intangibles of the game, and one of them being hockey IQ. You can have all the skill in the world, and you can toe drag and you go bar down, but if you don't know where to be on the ice, or you don't know when to change properly, or maybe pivot one way instead of the other when you're retrieving a puck, that's your brain. That's not necessarily a skill that you can quantify. So just want to kind of transition this from tryouts to something that people can improve on away from the rink, and that's hockey IQ. And Jimmy, to put you on the spot, if there's one thing you could point to improve your hockey IQ, what would you say that is?
Oh, I love this question. I mean, I think honestly, I mean, this is something, during our evals, this is something that I tell every single kid, whether it's my squirts, high school, like JV, like it doesn't matter. Like everyone should be a student of the game. So, watching a game, and when you watch a game, like an NHL game, you don't want to watch it just as a fan. You want to watch it as a student. So the way that you do that, and what I tell all of my players is, whoever your favorite player is, or whoever is a player, for the older guys, they kind of understand it a little bit more because every younger player is just like, I'm Patrick Kane. But I asked, the older guys, like, who's a player in the NHL that you think that you play like, or who do you try to resemble your game? And I mean, Greg knows that I tried to be like Brad Marchand because I love running my mouth and just trying to get under people's skins. I'm all for it. But, I would tell all of my players, find whoever you like to resemble your game or one of your favorite players and just watch them every time that they're on the ice, whether they have the puck, whether they don't have the puck. Just watch the little things that they do. When the puck's in the D zone, he's playing left wing. Where is he? Is he on the wall? Is he in the middle? Like, what's he doing in the offensive zone? When somebody has the puck, how is he seeing this? That's the easiest and best way, in my opinion, to learn more about the game and really and take notes, right? Like, not just watching it and saying, oh yeah, I do that sometimes. Like, take notes about things that you really, really liked in their game. And then maybe things that you didn't understand or questions, or say, he had a bad shift here. Why did he turn the puck over? What did he try and do wrong?
Right. And I think, you know, uh, Nashville doesn't have the luxury of, I mean, we have the Predators in town, but, we got high school and some college hockey. But, I tell our kids, and we went to Notre Dame last year and it was like, did the same thing. Like, hey, pick a player, just pick one player, not, not the left winger in every shift, but, pick one guy when he's out on the ice, watch him, again, learn from him. So that way they're able to enjoy the game also. But like, even watching it on TV, like, I don't know about you, but I don't think most of our kids actually watch hockey. It's like they'll watch the highlights, they'll watch the Austin Matthews toe drag and then snipe or what. But
Yeah,
no, there's not a lot of watching and learning and being a, like you said, a student of the game. And I mean, it's better than playing video games and stuff, but you're able to you know learn and visually pick up on things just by watching.
100%. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's honestly, and that's one of the things that I think it's 100% driving me crazy as a coach. I'm sure there's other people out there that are the same. Like, I can't stay. I mean, obviously, I love that the game is becoming more skilled, but the problem is at such a young age, there's coaches that are teaching them, we need to be toe drag, like, doing just nonsense at the blue line. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had a kid
Just
come
get
off
the
the
puck
blue line
over the blue line.
and try and toe drag, or we're looking off passes because we're trying to shoot short side high, like the stuff like that. Those are such little things, but in the long run, if you just do the little things right, you're going to see such an improvement in your game and coaches being interested in you.
Mhm.
And even on a scouting side, like when I was watching, I wasn't watching for, obviously, the goals happen, whatnot, but I mean, what are they doing outside of that? Are they playing hard in the defensive zone? Are they willing to block shots? Are they chipping pucks out when they don't have a play? Are they trying to toe drag around someone to get out of the zone? Like, little things like that just go such a long way.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you brought up the toe drag at the blue line thing. It's like, well, yeah, Brad Marchand can do it, but he also has Charlie McAvoy behind him and could probably make up for his mistakes. So it's a little different. Like, take it in bits and pieces, but yeah, there's a time and place for everything. But one thing I kind of said, and I didn't mean to segue into it, but do you think like playing NHL 22 or 23? Do you think playing those video games could help with um, hockey IQ in a sense?
I'm gonna be honest and say no, just because when
Okay.
I play, I'm running around trying to hit someone. But but I think, I mean, obviously it's great, like, for them to. I mean, that's where I think a lot of the creativity comes from. And
Yeah.
I mean, that was something I was going to ask you, like, as a coach, like, I mean, what's your balance of running a system, and then where you let them be creative? Because I know every coach is different, but
Yeah. So I think so the video game part first, it's like, again, bits and pieces, right? Like, you're able to probably do stuff in that video game that you can't do on the ice. Flip pucks, toe drags, put it through your legs, whatever. But like, in the basic sense of the computer moves guys where they're supposed to be, right? So
yeah.
you're able to make those D to D passes or stretch passes or come in the zone and do the Gretzky curl, right? So again, I think everything has pros and cons to it, but I'd rather my kid play NHL rather than play Call of Duty or something. So I guess that's where I draw the line. But to answer your question about being creative, I think as a coach, I'm much more structured in the D zone than I am in the offensive zone. So we like to keep our wingers, below the top of the circle, so we're tight and we're compact. And if there's a loose puck, we almost can all get to it, and then once we get it, we just explode and stretch the ice out. But in the offensive zone, it's like you guys are on the ice, you're seeing things like we can have a structure or kind of guidelines. If you're above the top of the circles, you're not going to pass it to the D because you're just handing off your problems to another player. Like
I love that.
probably take that puck and do a high cycle. But like once you guys are in the corner and grinding it out, like support each other, do your thing. But it's not like we set up the triangle, on every offensive zone.
Yeah. I mean, that's something it sounds like we're the same. And I honestly, I tell everyone there's not much difference between systems and stuff. It's not like anyone's really reinventing the wheel here, but yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I tell all my players, you want to be creative, you want to like showcase your skill, from offensive dots down, that's your time to shine. Go for it. Like let's be creative, not being selfish, still making plays. But I think that's where a lot of that stuff comes in too, with hockey sense, knowing when to make a move, when to make a pass, especially when trying to create some offense down low.
Right, and obviously with being creative, there's going to be mistakes that happen, but it's also you're forcing that defending team to react to something different. If we go in the zone and we're just going to cycle the puck 3 or 4 times in the corner, and then we move it up to the D, we go D to D shot. Well, if we do that every time, we're going to be predictable, and it's not fun to play that way. It's like get a little creative, have some fun, and it keeps the defending team on their toes too.
For sure. And it goes back to what I think when the last time I was on, what we talked about, like doing game situation drills and, trying like just challenging your players in practice to, putting pressure on them and having to make quick decisions and not having the first quick decision be toe drag.
Right.
Something besides that.
Yeah. And that kind of goes into the hockey IQ too. And we can kind of transition into practice here. It's like, as a coach, you have warm-up drills where, you're all in the dots and you're passing the puck and whatever, go in and shoot. But like even those little drills, it's like, okay, flat pass, catch it, soft hands, don't stick handle, try to, one touch it back or something. But even if your coach hasn't expressed the reason for the drill or what you're trying to work on, which they probably should if you're playing at a high level, but like don't just go through the motions in practice. Like try to figure out when you're going to use this. And if you don't know when you're going to use it, like ask the coach, but do everything in practice for a reason, even if it hasn't been, said to you out loud.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And just watching your teammates too, especially, just learning from them. You can always learn from your teammates and see what they do right, what they do wrong. And you can always be applying new things to your game.
Yeah. And I think, with us down here, we only practice twice a week. And then if we don't play on the weekends, we have a practice. And it's like, as long as a season is, you're talking, 2 50-minute practices during the week, and your coach is trying to work on your individual skill and put in some systems so you guys can play games, together as a unit. It's like, you got to put some onus on yourself as a player to, focus on those little details of, well, if I'm curling away from a defender, like I come in the zone, I protect the puck, should I curl towards the wall or right into the defender? It's like, well, probably going to curl towards the wall and then scan the ice and see things like that. But, again, just everything has a reason for why we say it. And if if you're a player, you don't know why I have you curling towards the wall instead of into the defender, like ask. It's not bad to ask questions.
And I love that you brought that up a few times. Like asking questions should never be a problem. Like players should never be afraid to ask questions. Obviously you want to make it the right question, but
right.
Like asking questions as to like where this would apply in the game. How can I do this in the game? I want to try this in the game. Like, would this work? Always ask questions. That's again, going back to just being a student of the game.
Yeah. And just another thing about, it's not necessarily hockey IQ, but, practice and doing things for a reason. I'll do drills where it's, if we're doing stations and that way everybody's moving, but if I'll do a drill out of a corner and then, the kid goes through the cones or whatnot and shoots on net, you can tell they're not going full speed, but as soon as I add a guy who leaves, the corner 2 seconds after you and starts chasing you, automatically they are faster by like 5-10 seconds. It's like, well, why don't you skate like that, like you're competing against somebody every single time?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just it's for everybody out there listening. It's like if you're at practice, it's not just you versus your teammate. It's you versus the kid who's practicing in Atlanta, or you versus the kid who's practicing in Chicago. Like you have to assume somebody is outworking you on every rep. But um, I think we're getting a little just off track with the topic we were going to speak to with the hockey IQ and tryouts. But it all intertwines with what how you can improve and what you need to work on, and um, you know developing your game on and off the ice. Um, so Jimmy, I think we touched on making the team, not making the team for tryouts. What we can do to work on hockey IQ, and I just didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to add to either of those topics before we check out for today.
The biggest thing that I was going to say, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I would say always make sure when you're talking to the coach after tryouts, whichever way, and even during the season, when you ask a coach a question on stuff that you should be working on, it's so easy for a coach to say, work on your skating, like, or work on your shot. Like, really challenge them and say, what part of my skating? Is it my acceleration? Is it my agility? Is it my turns? Like, for my shot, is it how fast I'm getting the shot off? Is it my accuracy? Like, know exactly what you want to work on, because just saying, well, I got to work on my shot, there's 15 different things that we can do with your shot, right? Same thing with, skating. By God, there's so much that you can do. So I would say, like, that's one of the biggest things, like, players and parents, when you're asking these questions, it's, again, not a problem as long as you're not, wording it the wrong way, but really asking them, like, okay, what exactly, and any coach that makes decisions like that. At least I know for our tryouts and even for squirts, like, I know exactly what is missing from a player as to why they made the team or they didn't make the team.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to training with attention to detail and having a purpose. It's like, we have a couple coaches. Well, we have a coach who does like power skating, and well, you're a hockey player. You should probably have a stick in your hand. You should probably doing like, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're there and you're trying to do hockey skating and get better at your hockey skating, maybe you should skate like a hockey player, not a figure skater.
Yeah.
So just again, training with intention, having what you're trying to improve on in mind, and you especially don't want to go to somebody who's kind of doing the blanket training that you can hand to any kid and say, hey, look, this is how you're going to work on it. Like, you should go to somebody who knows how you skate, know what you're trying to work on, and have those drills set to improve on those certain aspects of your skating or stick handling or whatever it may be to improve your individual game. So just having that in mind.
Absolutely.
Well, Jimmy, just want to say thank you again for coming on. I think these, when you and I do them together, it's also nice because I don't have to just talk to myself for 45 minutes. But we have got some feedback about the shorter episodes, and that they fit a little bit better for drives to school and stuff. So we'll try to keep this one under 30 minutes. And yeah, I hope everyone out there takes something away from this. And again, if you made your team, congratulations. And if you didn't, you got to keep working at it, and obviously have a good attitude, and make sure, turn on a playoff game, watch some hockey, learn from it. It's good to be a fan, but you can also learn and add something to your craft just by watching the guys who get paid millions of dollars to do what you guys do on a weekly basis. So again, Jimmy, just wanted to say thanks for coming on.
No, perfectly said. Hopefully I can start coming on more. Hopefully you keep asking me. I love it. I love talking hockey. We're lucky to do what we do.
Yep, for sure. All right, man. Well, you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.